It's our very last Hard Money Monday for 2024. Josh, I'm so glad to have you on, and we'll go live momentarily in Instagram here as well. And there we go. So this is actually the first time I've had a financial advisor on, which is great because you guys know a whole lot of stuff about money, and knowledge is everything, especially in the game that we're in. So honestly, man, just give me a little quick background. How long you been in the game? Are you doing real estate stuff as well as financial advisor stuff? Like, give us the backstory here.
Yeah, so my firm is called Mountain Financial. The way that it started, to give you the quick version of it, is I grew up in Denver. That's where I met my partner, Jeff, who has founded Mountain Financial. We connected with
Nice.
them, gosh, it's been about 11 or 12 years ago now. And I came on as a client. I did all the education, the process, got all set up in my early 20s, and then moved up here to Idaho, got married, did my thing, and just said, hey, I really need to take, finances seriously now. We're adults, we're married,
Right.
and dig into it. So revisited the stuff that I had learned, revisited stuff that I'd already implemented. Thankfully, I kind of had forced myself into a position to invest in myself and set up the things that I needed to really early on. It helped me out quite a bit, going into, more serious life things. But anyway, dove into it for myself. I really like this, really good at it. Reached back out to Jeff, my partner, and just said, hey, I'd like to do this and kind of help people out, licensing, legal, all that good stuff. What do I do? And he's just super generous. He had me come back out to Denver and just said, let's work together for a few days and see what you think. After the end of those couple of days, he's like, hey, this makes sense to me. What do you want? And just kind of gave me the keys to take a portion of his company and bring it up here to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and
Nice.
build upon it. So it's similar to like a franchise, I would say. We're all one team, we're all connected and help with each other's client systems and all that. But I've kind of been able to take it up here for the last 4 or 5 years now, and really
Nice.
build it as our own, and do our own thing here. And have really niched into the real estate community, be it the realtors, be investors, mortgage lenders, and so on. It's still weird for me to say. It's still weird to think about, but other financial advisors that I've talked to, other people kind of in this space, it's just, I do a lot with real estate professionals. And how? Like, what do you mean how? Like, I can't get those guys to listen, can't get them outside of,
Really?
to do these things. I'm like, well, maybe you're not speaking their language, And so it's, to me, and I think this is Mountain Financial as a whole, but why it's really stuck for real estate people. We do things a little bit differently, and that is the planning is much more geared towards being flexible, being able to react to emergencies and opportunities, having more control, not giving it to your employer, not giving it to the government, not
Right.
having things kind of locked away and like, yeah, that's for retirement down the road. I need to be able to live life in the short term, and I need to be able to react to things as they come up, be it kids, be it real estate,
Right.
school, whatever. And so because of that, that's translated really well to the real estate community, where I can say, hey, yeah, let's be real. The best 2 ways for you to build your wealth is be in business, have a business for yourself,
Yep.
and real estate,
For
or
sure.
in the best world, be in the business of real estate, right?
Right.
So go do those things. I don't want to pull you away and have you shove your money into the stock market or something
Yeah.
else if that's not what you want to do. So let's position our funds in such a way, or utilize assets that you already have, to just go do real estate better. Just make things more
Yeah.
efficient on this end, to keep doing the thing that you love to do, whether you're the
Yeah.
one buying and selling, or whether you're the one flipping, loaning, whatever else it may be. So all
I've got,
that said,
I've
yes,
got two
this is,
questions for you.
yeah.
2 questions that before I forget them. One, so like this whole time when you were starting and you were a client, like, were you in the real estate space beforehand, or what were you doing for work prior?
Not necessarily. So I grew up, actually, the family trade was electrical.
Okay.
And that was not what I enjoyed, but it was right there. It was easy. My dad owned a company down in Denver, owns one up here as well. And that made sense at the time. Um, made really good money for somebody who was 21, 22.
Right.
And, it was hard work, but I was able to make good money, and then, take the foundational
Yep.
stuff that I learned at Mountain Financial. Ultimately, I would argue, having that build up allowed me to buy my first house, allowed me to kind of start building, things up here at a really early age and kind of
Right.
get the ball rolling fast.
Nice. Okay. So here's my other question for you, which ties into a lot of like, speaking, being able to speak the language of people in business and real estate, right?
Mhm.
So if you were to talk to me like 4 years ago, I was all about Roth IRA and dollar cost averaging, low cost ETFs. Like I was all about that. But about 2 years ago, I had a realization where I was just like, quite frankly, investing in the stock market is like the dumbest thing I could do. Like I'm literally saying, hey, me as somebody who wants to be in business and real estate, like, hey, I don't really believe in myself to make returns on my own money. Somebody give me like 10% annualized. That would be great. Because if I do that for 30 years, I'll be able to retire. It's like, dude, my expectations for any money I put into my business is like, I want at least 100% annualized returns. So after I made that realization, I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm just want to invest in my own stuff. But then also, like to your point about flexibility, the one thing I realized that's the problem with a lot of business owners and real estate people is like nobody has liquidity. Like the joke with real estate investors is you could be a multimillionaire and have like $10 in your bank account.
Yep.
And so for that reason, like I got a life insurance policy recently because I was like, oh, this is great. Like if I throw money in my Roth IRA, it's pretty difficult to touch. Like, yeah, technically I can touch my contributions, but it's a rigmarole to not actually get taxed on that. It's like, oh, dude, like I can just basically access my stuff that doesn't really get taxed. Like that's cool. So I guess I'm just curious, like your perspective on that and how you talk to your real estate clients about basically that topic exactly.
The concept of the collateralization or the life insurance one in particular?
More of the concept of just like, should business owners and real estate investors put any money into the stock market, or does it make more sense to just use avenues that's more favorable for liquidity and more favorable to just dump more money into your own businesses? Like why would someone like me, why should I invest in the stock market, or shouldn't I?
I think that, one of the
To
things
bring
I
the
hate
heat for you.
when, yeah, no, let's do it. I hate when people get online or different advisors and like, this is the right way, this is the wrong way, this is the only thing to do, this is the worst thing you could do. Every account, everything has its place under certain parameters, right? Then it just kind
Right.
of becomes what's checking the most boxes for me, what's doing the things that I want to do. So to your point, when someone is coming in as a business owner, or more specifically as a real estate professional, I'm going, hey, look, you want to make a lot of money. That's going to be done by you buying houses, selling houses, flipping
Sure.
houses, whatever. You need to have access to that capital. You need tax advantages.
Yep.
You've got enough risk out there letting other people use your money or having it in a deal if it goes south, whatever.
Right.
Let's be safe, right? And then we have to have all these other favorable treatments, right? And so, okay,
Mhm.
these things can do that. These things do some of those things, and we'll walk them through all the different aspects of their situation. So I will actually take someone from start to finish and say, here's your stuff. Let's make this stuff better. I'm not going to add anything just yet.
Sure.
Here's this piece. Well, you have a mortgage, and say, okay, does 15 versus 30 work better? Do we need to cash out refi? Do we get a home equity line of credit? What are all those kinds of things that we need to do with that one and give them access to capital that way? So I will argue with people all the time, like, if you want to pay your house off and that's your thing, fine. But let's set it up in such a way to where the funds are over here, accessible to you, growing
Sure.
faster than you just shoving extra money to the house where
Right.
you can't get to it for all intents and purposes without jumping through hoops.
Right.
If they have the Roth IRAs, if they have the 401ks, make sure that that's set up correctly from a tax structure standpoint. And then, yeah, same thing. Okay, you don't really have access to this stuff. Do we want to continue doing that or not? Is that maybe
Right.
second level where we have got some extra money? I can throw that into there. Then hey, this is the right tax treatment for you, but you want to make this much money. You're not going to be allowed to contribute to this version of it.
Right.
There's all these
Right.
rules. I tell people, I think we all get market risk. You also have to
Yeah.
understand legislative risk. There's
Mm.
all these other things that come into that as well. Then usually we're working our way down to kind of what we're talking about here today, what we call our private reserve strategy. Say, hey,
Mm.
you've got a handful of different options here on how to pull this off, but this is the best way to have your funds positioned so that you can go buy the property, go do the loan, whatever. And I don't know if we want to get into this or not. I had a recent experience with a client,
Sure.
total coincidence. That was funny. That just made the light bulb went off from her for day one. And it just only proved my point more than anything. So it's just
Okay,
fun
yeah,
to see.
let's talk
Go
about
ahead.
that, man. So like, so okay, this is gonna be fun for me because I don't even know what private reserves means, but I feel like I should know. So let's just break this down story wise. So it sounds
Yeah.
like you basically just set this up or are in the process of setting this up for a client right now.
Yeah, now, because as soon as I told her what happened, she's like, I need that. I need to do that right now.
Okay.
So
So what's this person? What's like kind of their story, their backstory, what they're doing right now?
yeah, so this person came in, and I'll just tell you the story real quick. So she
Do it.
came in for her little introduction consultation, and what are your goals? What are things you want to do? And so she does digital marketing. She makes really good money,
Sure.
and has really been successful with that. She's like, one of the things I want to do is buy a house. A house. I have a lot of kids, fiance. We're doing all this stuff. We need more space. Like, okay.
Hmm.
She goes, well, I had a house. I, had this property at this builder in this location. I've had this all set up. And then finally they were like, hey, this lot's available to you.
Hmm.
Let's get going. So she's like, okay, they're rolling. She ran into some financial issues of, hey, you're not going to have access to this. You don't have enough of this, whatever. She
Yeah.
goes, okay, I'll go figure it out. She comes back a little bit later and they're like, hey, sorry, somebody already bought that lot. You're out. And she's, oh,
Dang.
okay. So she took too long, and it really wasn't that long, but she, took too long to be
Yep.
ready to
So
go. She
quick.
didn't know she could pull it off. So she's telling me this story, and I'm building a house.
Right.
I go, hey, is it this lot right here? And I throw it on the screen, and she goes, yeah, that's the lot. And I go, it was me. I bought the house. I bought
Oh,
that
that's
lot.
funny, dude.
And she goes, oh, and it's a cul-de-sac. It's like a half an acre, just the way it's positioned.
Yeah.
Great house, all that good stuff. And she's like,
She
oh
was
man.
immediately like, I'm never talking to you again, man. You stole my house.
Thankfully, she was like, oh man, okay, that's so good for you. Like we'll be neighbors or something. But it was just, I told her, I said the story for us was my wife knew what house she wanted, where she wanted it, and so
Yeah.
on. And the lenders are clients, and we said we want it in this neighborhood. And so and not this neighborhood. So they're
Mm.
like, hey, if you want this, it's going to be a couple years before they're able to build that kind again. I'm like, well, that slows us down. He goes, yeah, or you can buy the one coming available tomorrow in this other neighborhood that you said no on. So I was like, oh, okay, 2 years tomorrow. What do we do?
Right.
The point of this whole story was I was kind of able to go to what we call our private reserves and go, yeah, we got it. Let's just do it.
Mm.
And sit here and say, I know I have access to this money and at the size that we need it to. Let's make it happen. And so because I had that ready to go, now we're building our real estate more. Now I'm going to rent out the house that we're living in. We're going to have a nice new home, right?
Nice.
It's going to further us quite a bit in addition to whatever those reserves are doing, right?
Right. So
It's that ability to react.
essentially what I'm hearing is that you, as somebody who's aware of this private reserve strategy, basically you had all your stuff set up so you were ready to pounce on the opportunity, boom, right away. No hesitation. You knew you had the money ready to go, total access to it. Whereas another person came in, didn't have that set up in advance. And when the right deal came up, they just simply couldn't execute in time. They couldn't be competitive on snatch up the deal before it was gone.
Yep, exactly. For her case, it was a primary home, not a flip or a deal or anything like that. But
Right.
that's huge for a mother of 6 kids. You want to have that space and be able to react. Somebody more prepared was be able to react faster, and now
Right.
my family and I keep moving forward. So
Right. He gets to
that's what
wait 2 years for the next house.
yeah, exactly. And so I think people don't always realize that they're so hung up on returns, so hung up on like, I could totally this and this and this, but the ability to be able to react, I would
Yes.
tell people like, hey, I'm still going to get a little return over here. This thing is not a home run ball, but I can react and go get this. Now I'm building up my net worth by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm adding a rental to my portfolio.
Yeah.
I would argue my returns are higher, right? So
Dude.
it's those kinds of things that people just I don't know, they're still stuck on a little bit.
Well, if you look at some of the smartest people, like some of the smartest investors, like Warren Buffett, et cetera, like he's willing to sit on cash that makes absolutely zero return just so he can have dry powder. Like
Yeah.
so he can be like, when that opportunity comes up that I know I'm going to crush, I can pounce on it. And that's one thing I've appreciated as I've gotten a little bit more developed in business is I really think liquidity is one of the biggest risks that you'll ever have financially. But it's not just downside, right? Like if I run out of liquidity on a flip, I'm screwed. Then you have to liquidate, then you have to do crazy stuff. But also when the right deal comes up, you miss out on a lot of upside. So like me personally, this year I've been working a ton on my liquidity. Like I have way more access to business credit. Just generally speaking, I'm a lot more liquid than I used to be, and it's awesome because now I can say yes when the right thing comes up. So, maybe you can get me set up on private reserves in 2025. I don't know if it makes sense for me or not. So, let's talk about it.
Yeah, you're saying all the right things, and it sounds like, again, so it's tricky. It's one of those things. The private reserve strategy is just our name for it. People are doing it in other ways, right?
Sure.
But it's people aren't familiar with why the strategy, what benefits do I have to have, and then okay, what accounts do those things, right? And so some people are doing it without knowing it. Some people are like, okay, we need to implement. Oh, it's just that. So
right. Like when people were burring before that was like a bigger pockets term.
yeah, exactly, right? Like, oh, I've been doing that for years, right? Like, okay, good for you,
Nice, but you
So
didn't know it had a cool name.
yeah, exactly. Oh, I thought I should have trademarked that. That was my name, for it, whatever.
All right, so let's
So
hear about it, man. How does this whole thing work?
yeah, so for us, it basically comes down to, like I said, I have an asset, and that can be whatever it's meant to be, the real estate, the stock market, okay, or any different cash reserves, right? I have an asset. Normally what people will do is one of two things. They say, okay, hey, I've got a piece of property I need to go get, whatever. I'm going to go to the bank. I'm going to get a loan,
Yep.
buy the property, which is fine. That's how the system works. That's all good and well. But I'm paying somebody interest, and I have a monthly payment that has to go towards that. There's cash flow restrictions and so on, right? Not
Bunch
bad.
of red tape.
Yep, exactly. Or you've got people that say, I've got cash for whatever. I've got enough to do it. So I'm just going to offload the cash into the deal and call it good. So if they're paying for the property in full, whatever else it may be, also fine. You're not paying anybody interest, and now you own that house free and clear, but now you've lost the ability to earn interest on the money that you had sitting around. Now it's in the deal, or now it's in the property doing, I don't know, right? Maybe you're doing really well.
Generally low return on equity, though. Almost always.
Exactly, right? So what we're trying to do here is there's no perfect solution, but we can kind of be the sweet spot in between the two to say, I have an asset, right, that has a certain amount of value. Let's just call it 100,000 for round numbers. I've got $100,000 in here. I need that to continue to earn compound interest time and time again, but I need to use my money. So what I will do is use that asset as collateral. I will leverage it, right, to be able to deploy those funds and do something else, right? So it's having that asset work for you where it's sitting, but also use those funds to go somewhere else and work for you somewhere else. It's a loan, so you are still paying interest, but that's where we go, okay, where can we identify the people that will give us that loan where the cost of that interest is less than the interest that we're earning over here, right? And then flexibility with payments and all the other stuff that comes with it, right? So that's ultimately what we want to do is for people to understand you're going to finance something one way or another. Is it just, am I paying interest or am I losing the ability to earn interest? Let's maximize that as much as we possibly can for you to continue growing, right?
Maximize your yield spread, essentially, right?
Exactly. Yep. And that's what we tell people. It's spread, margin, whatever you want to call it, right? It's pretty standard loan stuff. It's not hard to understand. It's just where that money's being parked so that, and I'll tell people, have the money parked over here earning, I don't know, 6-7%, whatever else it may be, right? Take that and go earn whatever you're going to be doing on a deal, right? And then there you go. Now you're stacking returns. That's where we get that higher overall return, right? So then from there, ideally I would have something that is either tax-free growth or tax-deferred growth, right? I'm not paying taxes on it every single year or whatever else it may be. It does need to have some kind of competitive return, right? I need to be
Right.
getting some kind of decent interest from this thing and moving right along. I need to be able to put as much money as I want to into it. And that's where when we go back to like the IRAs and 401ks and
Yeah.
stuff like
Oh
that,
my
I've got
God.
income limits. I've got, real estate professionals. You should be moving good amounts of money. $7,000 a year for if you have a partner, right, is another 7,000. It's not moving the needle really when you really, think about it.
No.
So I need to have no lid on what I'm doing. If I want to do 100 a month, great. If I want to do a million a month, great, right? I should be able to put my
Yeah.
money into there. Tax write-offs is another good one. If we can get that, collateral opportunities, that's kind of the whole point. I have to be able to use this asset as collateral.
Right.
Because this is kind of a foundational tool in the back end, I need that money to be safe. I need to make sure that we're free from the market risk, free from the legislative risk, those kinds of things, to the extent of I can't lose, right? That money
Right.
needs to be there no matter what happens 2 years from now, 5 years from now, who the president is, whatever. Okay.
It's your
there.
dry powder. You can't lose your
Yeah.
dry powder.
Yeah, exactly. We know this isn't a home run ball, but if we can do singles and doubles because it's there all the time, we're
Yep.
still going to win games, right? Being guaranteed to get that loan, that's one that people don't always come across or don't always fully recognize, right? If I'm a real estate investor or a realtor, new business owner, whatever, it's going to be really difficult for you to get some of these loans out there because you don't show the history, you don't show the
Yep.
credit, all those good things. I need to have that money somewhere where it doesn't matter if I'm a divorced convicted felon. If my money's in the account, then I get to use it, right?
Right.
Because we have it.
Yeah, that's a no go for most lenders right there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's if your money's in the account, then I should be able to use it as leverage, right?
Right.
Unstructured loan payments, I want a little more flexibility on how I got to pay that back. If that's something that we're going to do, if we want to do systematic monthly payments, great. If we're doing a flip, I want to go do my flip 6 months, 10 months, whatever else it may be, right? And then pay it all back when it's done.
Yep.
I should be able to do that too, right? I just need that freedom and flexibility. Other benefits, right? Be it employer matches, be it dividends, medical stuff, whatever else it may be, right? I want all the goods, I want all the freedom, I want the flexibility, capture as much of that stuff as we possibly can, right? So that's the strategy in of itself is to collateralize an asset, and then I want to have all those things, and then I'll kind of walk people through and say, here's the accounts that we can utilize this strategy with. Okay, it's just what's going to check most of those boxes or not, right?
Right.
And so we'll go with people with what they have. Okay, most people have a savings account, a money market account, whatever else it may be.
Right.
That's fine. And I will tell people that's really good for your, I blew a tire, I need it right this second,
Yep.
transfer day in and day out, good to go. But I don't have any tax benefits. Most of those don't have really good returns and they're starting to work their way down, right?
Yep.
Because the interest rates, have started to work their way down.
Yep.
It's nice and safe. You can shove money into there, but it's not necessarily going to do what I want for this particular strategy, right? CDs, I bring that one up. I think that was really good for grandma and grandpa, but that's about it.
Not great for liquidity, man.
Yeah, not good for what we're doing here. I have a lot of people here that I'm just going to throw into a CD for 6 months and then
Really?
we'll do it there. Yeah, and I'm like,
that's insane, dude.
Okay,
So
that's fine if the deal is more than 6 months from now. But what if I bring you something in month 4? What's now? What you're stuck. I know I can't use you, right? So it's tricky. As far as stocks go, I'll show people like their 401k or if they have a standard brokerage account. The brokerage account specifically, I don't know if you're familiar with those, but you can go get margin on the stocks that are in those accounts, right? So it's the wild, wild west of the stock market. You don't have the tax benefits of the IRAs and 401ks. All your proceeds and sales are taxable, and obviously on profits, not losses, all those kinds of things.
Right.
You have all your liquidity, okay? You have a lot of upside. You have a ton of downside, right? You have the potential to go to zero, and if you do margin, which is basically just the equity version of stock, you can go backwards too. It's not just zero, right? You can owe money. And so that's where if people have that, we will usually utilize a brokerage account for people to kind of get a little more aggressive growth as a means to an end. We're going to save it here for that immediate liquidity so we can do other things in the very short term, right? Outside of that, unless you're a stock market guru or you own Amazon or something like that, that's on you. I'm not implementing that. I'm not being liable for what people do in the market with that kind of game. It's a very dangerous strategy, right? If you don't know what you're doing with the margins,
dude,
right?
I believe the statistic is that like 70% of publicly traded companies go down in value on average every year. Like, it's usually 80% of the gains of the S&P 500 is from like less than 10 companies. So it's usually a couple crazy winners. Everyone else doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, the big dogs continue to perform. The Apples, the Amazons, those guys, do their thing, and that's fine. And if you know what you're doing there, then more power to you. I'll let you do that. But as far as what we're trying to do here, it's too much leverage. It's too expensive of leverage.
Right.
Doing it on your own, it's like a 13-14% interest rate at the time,
Yep.
to pull that off. There's not a whole lot of deals that are going to make that pencil really well for me.
Right.
So it's tricky.
Josh, it kind of sounds like to me, okay, so take me as a real estate guy. Like, for instance, I'm into this flip right now. I think that we'll make like at least 30% annualized returns, right? So that's over here. Problem is, all my money tied up in that, it's just tied up. Like, I can't touch it at all. It's as illiquid as it could possibly be. And there's no even guarantee that I can sell it for what I want. I might have to refinance it. Like, who knows? This stuff happens all the time. But I have the benefit of high returns. There's no tax benefit at all. Flipping is like one of the least tax efficient strategies that exists. It's brutal, which is why you need to buy rentals when you do it too. But it sounds like essentially the strategy is like, hey, you got this, it's got the upside, but it's also got a lot of risk, not tax efficient, illiquid. Like, let's balance that out with some type of asset that does earn you money. Hopefully it's got the tax benefits. We set it up that way, and you can borrow against it to solve the whole liquidity thing without having to like literally pull your money out of it.
Exactly. That's pretty much the general framework of it all, is that we're shooting for that, right? Having an asset that is accessible, is growing, appreciating, whatever we can pull from it, borrow against it, I should say,
Right.
to do what we need to do, and then utilize it for whatever, but not pull it out of the account or whatever else it may be.
What assets do you like best for that typically? Like, I know it's hard for, I'm realizing I'm like, dang, dude, I'm asking a lot of specific questions, but you don't know anything about my goals, etc. So it's hard to give like, do this exactly.
No, and that's why we teach it this way, is that it depends, right? I can sit here and tell you the two things that typically work out the best is going to be home equity, right? If you can get a home equity line of credit and have access to that, that's going to be something that does really well. One, because people tend to be able to get access to a lot of it in a shorter period of time. But lately, the current climate is it's expensive, right? 9%, 10%, it's not going to pencil quite as much, right? You have to find a deal that's really going to do that. Plus, there's some other things too.
Right.
The other one is the one that you spoke of too, is that we will actually show people the permanent life insurance policies and how those function and those kinds of things, which I will say this to toot our own horn a little bit here. I don't think many people get that correct. I don't think many people understand the nuances of it. I don't think people fully understand why the insurance company matters, why the particular type of one matters, and then all the kind of structure and setup that goes into that, right? And that's partly to do with, other influencers and whatever speaking one thing or another. You've got other people that don't know what they're doing. So an insurance person might just throw it together and be like, sure, yeah, I got a quota to hit, or they know exactly what they're doing and they're not being favorable to the client, right? And so I do think we're one of the few people that, at least that I know, that have been able to really implement those cash value life insurance policies correctly, well, for the small business owner, for the real estate professional. And we've done a lot of it. That's why we've been able to really build into the market here in this particular space, is people are going, this makes sense. I'm going to go do real estate, but I've got that framed up here in my home equity line of credit and a cash value life insurance policy. Go do your thing. Yeah,
I love that, dude. Those are like two of my, so I guess I've been doing this without knowing it. Those are, I don't have equity in any houses yet, but absolutely love HELOCs, like incredible. Now it does suck. You do need to do like the debt to income, all that kind of stuff. Like, you really need to be pretty clean to get it. But I mean, to some degree with life insurance, like you have to actually qualify, do the health stuff, everything like that. But what's been crazy is that I've noticed over the past couple of years that the investment property HELOC product has gotten so much better. Like
Mm-hmm.
4 years ago, it wasn't really a thing. Now I know people will get 75% LTV on a duplex, second position HELOC. And I'm like, dude, that's crazy. And you don't have to touch it unless a deal comes up. Like, why? And you pay points on it one time. That's it, one time. And then you just keep drawing on that thing. Like,
Yep.
that's literally insanely good. And I don't know, maybe the product doesn't exist a few years from now. So jump on that. But
Yeah.
on the life insurance too, like I honestly was super turned off from hearing, not from like the classic like life insurance people hitting me up. I don't care about that. But from it was the influencers online that were talking about like investment or what's the term? I think you're not even legally supposed to say it, but the infinite banking, which is so misleading.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, there's nothing infinite about it. Like it's literally just borrowing against the assets that you have. You can't even get more. You can't even borrow the full amount usually. But like, it took me a while to actually understand how that works. I was like, oh, that actually makes sense.
Yeah, and that's one of the ones that, quite frankly, we are typically up against fighting. Is going when you
Yeah.
talk about infinite banking, beer on bank, and all that stuff. They are saying that this is the one way to do it. It is always life insurance. It is always this way. No
Mm,
questions asked. Anything else, you're wrong. I can sit here and go, I'll show you the math. Usually, it checks the most boxes, and usually, it's going to
right.
serve us the best when done correctly. Not always. The home equity is a big one, right? As you're right, as these loans continue to develop, I'm seeing first position HELOCs, right? There's all these
Yeah.
kind of things that you can do to really maximize, the real estate side of things too, right? And so, yeah, TikTok has both made it nice sometimes, because I've had people like, I want this, and I can be like, okay, we're going to do it this way,
Yeah.
but conceptually,
Awareness is
yes.
up. At the very least, awareness is higher.
Yeah. And so, but the other time too, actually, I'm literally meeting with the gal later today. She goes, I want this, I want this, I want this I want the life insurance thing. I don't want to do anything else. I go, okay, that's fine. You are clearly seeing what's on social media. You have dug into the sexy book, about this stuff and whatever. I
Yep.
got to kind of bring you down and go, it's actually this. And we were able to kind of
Yeah.
correct course because there's some stuff out there that yeah, it's shiny. It's better for the advisor. It's better for the agent. It's better for the
Right.
insurance company. We're kind of fighting to make sure that people understand the true nature of what's behind the
Right.
scenes. It's not sexy. It's not cute,
Yeah.
but it does the right thing and it does what it's supposed to be for the client, for the investor,
Right.
rather than me or
And
whoever else, right?
the reality is, man, like as someone, I'd like to think I have pretty good financial savvy. Like I bought life insurance. Like I'm starting my policy this month actually, but like don't think I'm sitting here not understanding like how much money people make from them. Like I get it. It's not like they come for free, and if you don't set it up right, it's not a short-term play. Like if I cancel it within 2 years, I lose a lot of money.
Right.
Um, so it's not something like the infinite banking thing is a huge like misconception. There's nothing infinite about it, and it's not a short-term play at all. It's like I'll look pretty smart in 10 years and have like pretty good access to basically my own self-supported line of credit, which is a long-term smart play for most people. And we are running up on time here, so I just want to end it with this: like for real estate investors, business people listening in, is there really any reason why it's not worth at least having a conversation with someone like yourself for just getting a second opinion on how all my assets are put together, what tools I have access to? Is there any other thing that I should be looking into? Like, is there any reason for someone to not at least have that conversation?
No, I mean, it's everybody from what I found, whether they're the realtor, whether they're an investor, and so on, they're doing their thing, right? They know what they're doing. They're in their lane, and they're making it happen. There's always something where we can sit, and that's. I don't want people to think that this, we just do life insurance. That's what's nice about Mountain Financials. We look at everything.
Yeah.
So as we sit down with these guys and go, hey, you've got, this property that you're paying a little too much in interest, or we're doing a little bit, too much here. Let's address that. Okay, you do
Mm,
have an old 401k. Let's address that, right? And then some people do have family that they want those insurance things covered for and whatever else. I haven't had anybody meet with us, go through our whole process and be like, yeah, there's nothing to change. There's always something. There's always something that could be better from a tax perspective. There's always something that could be better from a liquidity perspective. And again, most people will just have the term insurance, or I had people that had a massive amount of debt, and one of them went on a gambling spree. And this was a few years ago. I go, hey, I can't pay off the debt, but you guys have a ton of home equity. Get a home equity line of credit, pay the credit cards off, and now your interest rate at the time was like 4%.
Yeah.
Like, now you can actually get this thing done rather than being drowning in interest payment. I didn't know you could access the equity in your home.
You're right.
It's those things that we'll implement there too. So there's always something. I would highly recommend people go through our process. I don't charge people to meet with us. It's just, hey, let's have an intro. We'll walk through these different pieces. We can talk about this strategy. At the end of that, we'll say, here's a bunch of education. Here's the stuff you gave me. Let's marry the two together. I recommend you do A, B, and C. And they can say, great. They can say, no, just B and C. And then we help them implement whatever they need. So
awesome.
It's pretty straightforward. Everybody benefits from it one way or another.
I love it, man. And here's the most important unspoken benefit. If you follow Josh on Instagram, you'll get access to good memes on a regular basis, which is very important to me. I want the meme content.
That's good feedback, because we've been working really hard on the social media side of things, and we have found that the funnies do better than just the straight up monies. So
nice. I love that, dude.
It's good.
Well, thank you so much for joining. I got to hop into a meeting, man, but I'm sure we'll talk soon. Looking forward to meeting up with you when I'm out west.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know when you're coming. Like I said, we'll be finishing up our house here, and then we'll hang out.
Sounds good, Josh. Have a good one,
Awesome,
man. Thanks for joining.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
All right. See ya.